Tough act to follow, huh? Our brother Jay asked me, is that too loud? He asked me a couple of weeks ago if I would come up here for the Rotary Club and they're having a banquet to do a toast for him. And he was adamant about it was a toast and not a roast. And he said this 2 or 3 times. It's not one of those things where you make fun of people. It's a toast, honor. And I thought about it. How could it be a roast? This guy doesn't smoke, drink, or cuss. He doesn't do any of those things. Even the first record he even made, I happened to dig it up out of the garage. On one side, the name of it is Honesty. This guy is squeaky clean. He hasn't done anything bad. So here we are tonight to honor my big brother Jay. We grew up in a family that had a lot of musical talent. Our dad, I just read this in the book. I don't know where this book came from or who put it together, but obviously we're thinking alike. So I'm going to tell you anyway. This is in my speech. Dad played the banjo, and he had a group called the Bandoliers, and they played on the radio back in the 1930s. Mom sang, played the piano. She had a lady across the street, Ramona Holbrook, would come over and they'd play duets, and both of them would sing. Stan started on the saxophone, and I think he played the organ, had lessons on that. Jamey had the banjo lessons, saxophone lessons, and piano lessons. I played the clarinet for 3 or 4 years and decided that was not for me. Dad always had music on. Had 3 or 4 records on, the old 78s, he'd stack them on before we'd have supper every night. We'd have to come in about 4 o'clock, get our baths, was the dumbest thing I've ever heard of. Get for supper, and Mother'd say, come on, get here before it gets cold, which it never did, but he's putting on his records to get ready, and we would listen to music every night. And in our father's greenhouse, we worked out there, hauling dirt, pulling weeds, watering, potting petunias for years, it seemed like. And Jamey followed in our dad's footsteps, his musical talent footsteps, and he always had music on. He was his radio or his record player. He'd take his record player out there and stack the records on. Now this time they weren't 78s, we moved up to 33 1/3. But he would put on those records and we'd work out there, or supposedly work. We goofed off and off a lot. So he had records on then, and I would wake up, our rooms were across from one another on the 2nd floor, and I would wake up in the morning when he's getting into these jazz records, I guess, every morning. Wes Montgomery, Charlie Parker, John Coltrane. Some of you know him. There was a tune, Blue Train. Is that right? Blue Train. He must have played it. It must have had a groove an inch deep. It must have played it all summer long. And I still remember it. I don't know how many years later. But in the summertime, when he was practicing a banjo or the sax, we didn't have air conditioning, so the windows were open. And you could hear kids in the neighborhood, oh, Jamey's practicing. You know, he's not going to play ball today. You hear him all up down Silver Street, practicing the saxophone or the piano, the banjo. He was very innovative. He was 4 years older than me, so I kind of followed in the footsteps and took a lot of notes. See, I don't want to make the same mistakes he did. But he'd come up with some really innovative ideas. One time, he was in trouble. He was going to get a spanking. So he decided, we were down in the basement, so he either got some magazines, towels, washcloths, I don't know what. He stuffed them in the back of his pants. And I was down there, and I'm waiting. Mother calls him up there in the kitchen. And I hear this drawer open up, and this is the drawer that's not the good drawer. It had a pancake turner in it, you know, one of those metal ones, and they sting. Had little grooves in it, and it was nasty. And I was down in the basement, and I heard that, and boy, she landed into him, and he's screaming and hollering and all this stuff. Here he come down the basement. I'm down there. God, I thought he was killed, you know. Here he comes. I didn't feel a thing. I said, it worked? Oh, yeah. I didn't feel a thing. Why are you crying? I just pretended. So about the time we heard, I heard that. Jamey, come up here. He was not happy after that episode. Then at a time we had, we messed around with a lot of stuff. We had a go-kart. It really wasn't a go-kart. It was like a old soapbox derby. We put a lawnmower engine on it, and the steering, oh, he had come up with this idea. It was a pipe with a steering wheel, and you'd wrap the old cable around it. The cable, it springs back, and you got to hold on to it, down some pulleys and out to the axles, turn the wheel, and hey, this is neat. The only problem was he wired it backwards. You turn to the right, it goes to the left. You turn to the left, it goes to the right. So we could ride with that pretty good, and we were out doing around with it, and our cousin, Bill Baker, I wish he were here, he's in North Carolina, he came over, and we just call him Baker. So, oh, he wanted to drive it. Explained it to him. This stuff, turn to the left, just go to the right, Bill, turn to the right, just go to the left. I got it. So we filled it up with gas, cranked that sucker up, and here it goes. And he makes a big turn, and as he makes the big left-hand turn, he realizes he needs to go straight, so he turns it to the right, and it keeps going left. Smacked into the wall, tore it all up. We must have spent 3 hours on the thing, like it, and he wasn't a happy camper then either. Another one I had was a water gun story. This is a good one. He's always got to outdo everybody. I had this little water gun. Everybody had one. You know, they shoot about 3 feet, and you fill them up about every 30 seconds. He comes out one time with it looked like a machine gun. Nice one. It'd shoot about 40 feet and hold about 8 gallons of water. I mean, you come around the corner, you'd hit it, it'd just blast you. You'd say, it was great. Well, he did something wrong somewhere along the line, and Mother didn't like it. And we were upstairs, and I heard her coming up the steps. And the only reason she came up the steps was maybe to make the bed or do some cleaning. And this was like 2:30 or 3 in the afternoon, and she wasn't going to do either one of those things. So I heard her go into his room, and I don't remember all the details, but she got a hold of the water gun. And we had a close from the second floor to the basement. I heard that thing go bang, 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 crunch, smash. He tore it all up. He was really upset over that. But she was rough. We worked hard together as kids. We had a lot of fun. About the only thing we do now is play basketball together about 3 times a week. So we don't get away from one another too much. It's at the Boys and Girls Club on Eakin Avenue. And I was over there one day last spring, and we were shooting at one end or whatever, and before I know it, we started to play a game. No, I was going to take the ball out of bounds. So I'm facing down the other way, and I look up, there's this big sign down there. Jamey Aebersold Gymnasium. Well, what is this all about? It's because he has all the rules in there. You see, when he plays, Matt knows this, and so does a few other guys. When he plays, I guard him, see, because both of us are old. Everybody else in there is about 30, 35, or 40 years old. So we run around together. And he does this fantastic hook shot from about 30 feet out. It hits the rim, bounces up hits a high beam, and bounces through the basket. Everybody else says, well, that's ball interference. You don't count that. He says, what do you mean? He says, you can't count that. It hit the high beam up there. Like, nah, it's stupid. Count it. If it goes in, it counts it. It's 3 points. Let's go. Cut and dry. Done. So I think there ought to be another sign right next to his name. Rules of basketball with a big red arrow facing over to his name. That's it. About the only time we work together now is last winter. I pulled him out of a snowbank. Twice. In the same day. He called me up. I go down Spring Street. We didn't get Spring Street clean that day. It was good. He plowed about 3 foot of snow on the side all the way down Spring Street. So I'm going looking for him. Where's Brother J.A.? Way down there, up in the snowbank. I pulled over and I said, what are you doing here? He says, I'm going to the post office. I said, this is an alley you're cutting through. Yeah, well, I thought I was going to take a shortcut. We haven't had mail for 3 days, but yet he's going to the post office. So I get one of these nylon straps tied on there, and I pull him out of there. He goes on. About 9:30 that night, he calls me again. I'm trying to get Sarah